Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's the first day of the brand new month. It's Happy April Fool's Day, actually, and I hope you didn't get fooled today. I think there's so many people on Facebook posting about something that's quite unusual. So if you're not really aware that it's April Fool's Day, then you can fall for it. But anyways, it's 3 minutes before 6 o'clock. I know we said that we're going to start at six, but our guest is ready now, so I thought we might as well do it early. It's 3 minutes till 1 in the morning in Manila, Wednesday morning. I hope some of you, my dear friends, are still watching. We had our clocks, clocks went forward last Sunday actually, but I didn't notice it because I was in Skegness. I was at the Shine On festival, and I'm really glad because my guest for today was at the Shine On festival as well with his band, and they were absolutely amazing. Um, to be honest, I think that their band is actually quite synonymous to Shine On because it's not really the same without them there. So I'm really glad. I went to see them on Saturday. No, Sunday evening, and they were amazing. And he's here now, live on Asta Chummers. So my dear friends, please welcome Chas Morrison of Space Monkeys. Yay! Hello, Chas. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Have you recovered from Shine?
Yeah, I'd say tomorrow I'll probably recover fully, but yeah, I'm feeling okay. Yeah,
Yeah, you left early, straight after you said, because I saw Richard.
yeah,
Um,
I didn't get to see
yeah,
you after we played.
yeah, yeah. So, so the football was yesterday, or it was yesterday, your son's football match?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
I had to come back and I had to do the school run and all the normal things that I do when I'm not with the Space Monkeys. So,
when you're not
um,
drumming,
exactly.
when you're not a rock and roll star.
Yeah.
Did they win? Did your son's team win?
Yeah, well, both my boys played, and one of them won, and one of them not so much. But yeah, it's only kids teams, so yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
not in
they're
a league
happy.
or anything like that.
Yeah, because like I said, Shine On is not really the same if Space Monkeys are not playing. So it's like,
I think we've only missed three since it started 10 years ago, so we do manage to get to it most
yeah,
years and play. Yeah,
yeah.
we
Were you
we
there
love it
for
as a festival. It's a good festival, isn't it? It's kind of
It's
it
yeah,
brings a lot of things together that are just you don't get on festival lineups really anywhere else.
yeah, yeah. No, it's amazing. I love Shine On. And were you there for the whole weekend, or was it just Sunday? That
Yeah, well, some of the band were there for the whole weekend. I came down on the Saturday, so I was there on the Saturday night and saw some of the acts on the Sunday as well.
yeah,
But a few of the lads came down on Friday afternoon and were there for the whole thing. So
yeah,
um, yeah,
yeah. Because I saw Mike.
how was
Mike
it? You?
Party. I saw him on a Saturday. I think it was
Yeah,
Saturday afternoon, and of course Richard as well. And I think Richard was there until Monday because I'm pretty certain. I'm pretty certain I saw him on Monday morning when we
yeah,
were just sort of like, getting ready to leave. So, but
yeah.
anyways, yeah, I'm glad that you're not really fully recovered yet, but
It's always quite a heavy one, I think. Shine. Yeah,
yeah. Well, welcome to. I always say that this is like a Shine On special because you're our guest. So yeah, so welcome to Ask the Drummer, episode 166. Is all about you, Charles Morrison or Charlie
yeah.
Morrison.
Also
If you're
Charlie. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So so we'll start from the very beginning. So am I right in thinking that you were born and bred in Manchester?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was born in Radcliffe, which is in North Manchester, and I've kind of lived here my whole life near Bury,
Yeah,
and grew up here and put my teeth here, becoming a musician and playing around here. So yeah, North
yeah, yeah,
Manchester, born and bred.
yeah. And what was your Manchester like? when you were sort of like growing up? I mean, it must have, it must be like different now from when you were little. And
Yeah,
then,
it's really it's the whole place has really changed. I mean, I grew up on the outskirts of Manchester, north of a town called Bury, um, and I started going into Manchester at a fairly young age, probably about 12, 13, with friends of mine to
yeah,
just go around the music shops and the music instrument shops and stuff like that. It was just a completely different place. It was nowhere near as busy. There weren't people living in the centre even then. There were no apartments really in the centre apart from a few. So it was a
oh,
completely different place. And a lot of the music shops were based on the very outskirts of the city centre. So we used to wander around and it was still slightly industrial. It was still pretty run down in a lot of places. The
yeah,
university wasn't the same as it is now. So yeah, it was very different. Very different.
yeah. So was this like in the 80s?
Yeah, kind of very end of the 80s, early 90s. So I was
Right.
born in 1977.
Yeah,
So probably by 1990, I was starting to, get into the city
yeah,
and go music shopping and look around the instrument shops and have a go on the guitars and the drums in the music shops with my mates and stuff like that. So yeah,
yeah. Because for people like me, I mean, it was not really from Manchester. I'm originally from the Philippines, so I moved there in 1996. Um, for us, I mean, Manchester is like the music capital of the world. So I don't know whether young kids at the time were aware of the impact of their city of Manchester, in the whole world.
yes, it was a funny one really because when I was at school, um, from like I was at high school from about 1988, and we were into the Smiths and the Stone
Yeah,
Roses and the Happy Mondays, but I think there was a bit of a disassociation between us and the reality that these guys were just down the road. And it wasn't until I was older and started going into clubs. I mean, by which time I was already in the Space Monkeys, that you just became aware that you were actually part of that, and it was all around. And the
yeah,
legacy of that was so strong. So it was
yeah,
kind of it was like another world, even though I was probably 8 miles away from where most of those bands were playing
yeah.
at the
Did you
time.
go to
So
the hacienda,
yeah,
or
we
were
played
you?
in the Hacienda, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So went to the Hacienda and the Boardwalk and the Roadhouse and places like that quite a lot, yeah.
Oh wow. Well, are you from a musical family at all, or
Yeah, my dad
both?
was a musician, so he
Oh,
was a guitar player, and he toured with John Cooper Clarke. He was a massive Beef Art fan, so he was in loads of really obscure kind of avant-garde bands in the 80s. But then he played with people like Terry Hall,
no
um,
way.
and
Really? Oh,
yeah, yeah, he played with Terry Hall in the Colour Field and
oh
did
my
session work for
God. What's
people. Yeah.
what's your dad's name?
My dad's called James Morrison, Jim Morrison, but yeah, yeah,
Oh my God. So he was in the coal field?
yeah, yeah, um, yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, he was very musical. Yeah,
Oh my God. Well, I'm gonna say that the color field, they're massive in the Philippines.
really,
Yeah. When I was a
really,
teenager, it was like, see, this is something that it should be on Wikipedia about you, because I
yeah,
was just really surprised. You know, oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah.
So
It it honestly it blow. I'm still meeting people now who knew my dad, who I had no idea knew him. Like my dad. So my dad died about 9 years ago, and
sorry about that. I didn't
no,
know.
no. I mean, the people that knew him and the networks he moved in, I'm still oblivious to. Really, I had no idea how many people he was connected to.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh my God. Sorry, just sort of kept thinking about it. So did you get to meet Terry Hall then?
I didn't know. It was when I was still pretty young when that happened. I mean, I remember I was a pretty little kid when my dad gave me a copy of the Colourfield records and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So no, I was too young, but I do remember I went with him once for a sound check at the Hacienda, and
Yeah.
they were all sound checking, and I went and helped all the bar staff throw beer bottles in the canal at the back because they just used to sit the beer bottles. So I remember that. So I went to the Hacienda probably for the first time when I was about 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
Well,
Because the one that's
not for the gig.
the one that's very popular is "Thinking of You"
Yeah,
by the
yeah,
Colourfield,
yeah.
and
I remember that one. I remember Castles in the Air
"Castles
pretty
in the
well.
Air." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
two albums, Virgins and Philistines, and I think Deception is the other one.
Yeah,
Those
versions of
albums.
Philistines. Yeah, he played on
Oh my God, I didn't realize.
that.
Wow. But so what got you into drumming then? Why didn't you
Well, it's one of those, isn't it? My dad played the guitar, and so there was a little bit of. I think I can't. I played the guitar a little bit, but I'd never kind of pursued it that passionately. The drums came about really by accident. Me and my brother. This is literally how I got into drumming. Me and my
yeah.
brother were bored one summer, and it was the school summer holidays. We had nothing to do. And my brother had just bought Bon Jovi "Slippery When Wet," so it must have
Okay.
been 1987. So I
Yeah.
was 10,
Yeah.
and we were just starting to go like, "What is this?" Like guitars and getting into all of that kind of stuff. And we were bored one summer, and we literally were sent out by our stepdad, my stepdad, his dad, and to just he was like, "Why don't you go and find some drums from the factory down the road?" And so we went out and we got these like cardboard drums that we used to store dye,
Yeah.
and we got a small oil drum, and we went to the garage and we got some inner tubes, and we made a drum kit out of basically rubbish in our cellar just
Yeah.
for something to do. And I used to play it so much that after about 6 months, one of Nick's school friends, my brother's school friends, was selling a drum kit for like 40 quid or something. And our parents let us buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We went halves, and that was it. It was just playing it constantly. Um, but one of the main catalysts, one of the things that really turned into something else was we had friends in our so we're from a village called Edenfield, and
Yeah.
we had friends who lived around us who were also just starting to pick up guitars and stuff like that. So we formed a band. We were in a band by the time we were 11 years old, just
Oh wow.
playing like random stuff. But that kick started it, and it became a really constant thing in our lives that we just wanted to do all the time. And
Yeah.
so it just grew from there, really.
And did you go for lessons, drumming lessons, or were you just
No, no, I had never had lessons. I just taught myself, listened to tracks and tried to emulate them and learn the licks and stuff like that.
Let's see. Okay, we are live. We
But
are live again. We're back.
okay.
I'm so sorry about. I think it's just the excitement from me knowing that your dad, was in the color film. I think that's what it was. So, and then the computer picked it up. It was like, oh god, there's too much excitement there. But anyways, yeah. We were talking about that you didn't do any proper drumming lessons, so you
Yeah,
just like self-taught. Because I always ask the drummer this: it's got to be natural. It's got to be in you, right? Because I mean, you're an amazing drummer.
thank
You
you.
really
Thanks.
are. You're so good, but you didn't have any proper drumming lessons. And I think a lot of these amazing drummers didn't either. So do you think that it's got to be a natural, it's like it's in you, it's a natural thing?
Yeah, I think to a large extent, playing any kind of musical instrument, there is something natural in it that I think really helps. I mean, just for the record, one my eldest son, who's 13, he's a very natural drummer. However, he is having lessons, and he's miles better at his age than I was. So I think the two things combined can be very useful. But
Yeah,
I honestly think I learned so much by playing with other musicians, by playing in a band from such a young age. You know,
yeah, yeah,
you learn to hear what you need to hear in the music as a whole. And I think that is such a useful full skill to develop. Just being able
yeah,
to anticipate things musically as well as just work on the beats themselves. And I learned so much from that, and that was just messing around in a practice room with friends ultimately.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
it just meant that by the time I was 14, 15, I was gigging and competent and able to play lots of different lots of different styles and different music because we just picked it up by ear. So
yeah.
yeah,
What was your first band?
we were called, well, when we were 10, 11 years old, the
Yeah.
band was called Accelerator with the word axe at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Um, but it wasn't the greatest name. But then the band, we changed the name and we were called Wastelands. So from being about 12 to being 16, we were in this band called Wastelands, and
Oh,
we were a rock band. We were all into Jimi Hendrix and
yeah, yeah,
Led Zeppelin and various other things like that. So
yeah.
we were a rock band.
But
Yeah,
did you do
Wastelands.
your own material or?
Yeah, we did. It was surprising actually. So my mum, who kept like loads of stuff from when we were younger, gave
Yeah,
me a video recently. It was a DVD that had been transferred from an old VHS tape,
yeah,
and it was a gig that we did at our local sports centre when we were. I think we worked out. I was probably 15. A couple of the other lads were 16, and we were playing to just a crowd of our friends, and
yeah,
loads of the songs were originals. I didn't really remember it like that, but yeah, we were writing our own songs and um, working out our own way and starting to form our own sound by that point.
yeah.
So yeah, I was quite surprised. Yeah, but yeah, we were writing quite a lot.
Are you still in touch with them, with the
I
band members
still
from
I
Wasteland?
still play with them. I
Oh,
still
you
play
still
with
play with
them.
them? Oh
Yeah,
my.
so we're in a so I have another drum in life, which is, in fact, I'm not the drummer, I'm the bass player. But I have another band life where we just play a handful of gigs a year in our local pubs. We
Oh,
have a
okay.
drink. We just learn loads of songs that either make us laugh or we
Yeah,
know are fun to play. And we just play in a few local pubs and invite our mates down and stuff. So that's a whole other side. The reason I'm not the drummer, by the way, is because that band formed while I was doing the Space Monkeys pretty much full time,
oh,
and
okay. Yeah,
so the
yeah,
drummer is one of my best friends, and there's two brothers, the lead singer and the drummer, two brothers who I grew up next door but one with, and
yeah.
so it was kind of like I was out of the way. He started playing the drums for this band, and then by the time I joined, the only vacancy was the bass. So
All
I
right.
had to learn the
Is
bass.
is this this is not RSL, is it? Is it?
No,
No, it's a
RSL's a
different one.
different
Okay,
band.
because
Yeah.
you're the drummer. You're the drummer in RSL. So this is a
Mm,
different band altogether.
yeah, yeah, I'm the
Okay.
drummer in
All right.
RSL. So yeah, this band's called Das Ringmeisters, and we just play daft cover versions and stuff like that. No originals. It's
Oh,
purely
okay.
for fun, purely for fun. And
All
then
right.
RSL and Space Monkeys were the bands I was in
Yeah,
professionally.
those are the ones that you play drums in. So,
Yeah, yeah.
anyways, Aiden said that sound and picture fine. Aiden is my tech support who's in Dublin at the moment. So he just said that shame about the echo. That was earlier, but it should
Okay.
be okay now. So so after Wasteland, then you formed Space Monkeys, because I found out that you're actually just there's only you and Richard who are the original members, founding members of Space Monkeys.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Um, yeah. So it was the band was actually called a couple of different things before it became the Space Monkeys. I should probably say the lighting guy, Sai, has been with the band for longer than I have, and he was there at
Oh, right.
Shine.
Oh, okay.
Um, And Mick, the bass player, was actually a friend of the band's who was around before I arrived on the scene as well. But when the Space Monkeys originally became the Space Monkeys, yeah, me and Rick were the only original members. But it was kind of
Yeah.
it was a bit of an evolution. So there are a few people around who've been there since the early days as
Oh,
well.
I see. But the name Space Monkeys, when it's actually formed, it was you and
Yeah,
Richard or Rick,
yeah.
were the original members of it. Richard, I mean, where did the name come from?
Um, well, I think it was probably a bit of a reinvention at the time. When I joined, it was a slightly different outfit, and Rick and Tony, who's now rejoined. So
Yeah, yeah,
Tony who was on the decks on Sunday.
yeah.
Um, him and Richard were best friends, and actually they had formed the band. So Tony is an original member of all the
Original.
bands that yeah. Um, and we kind of had this band for a while that was called Aurora Boy, and it was much more guitar-y. There was a lot more organs, and they'd made this shift towards electronic music, hip hop, all of these things that were starting to influence us and become part of how we were thinking. So I think the Space Monkeys was just like a line in the sand to go, actually, we want to do more of this stuff. We want beats, and we want electronics, and we want keyboards, and we want samples. And
Yeah,
so Rick came up with the name to kind of create that new direction for us, and we then built everything else that was to come on that.
yeah. Can I just ask you, is Richard McNevin Duff, is he posh?
It's like, oh,
Is he posh? Because
uh,
all these people with double barreled names, they're quite posh, aren't they?
yeah, you think so, wouldn't you? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not he's not
Oh,
at
he's
all.
not.
No, he's
Okay.
not. He's a good working class lad from Haywood. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, he just likes to have his name like that. They always have, as
No,
they always
it's
have
right.
it.
It,
Yeah.
it sounds like he'd be incredibly posh, but he isn't.
Oh, right. So, um, right. So, is it a Space Monkeys or the Space Monkeys? Is that what-
Oh, we've argued about this quite a lot. It's space. I think it's Space Monkeys.
okay?
And we actually had a long argument about this in the studio about whether there should be a "the" in front of
Yeah,
any band names. There are some exceptions, aren't there? But a lot of
yeah.
band names that people put "the" in front of actually don't have "the" in front of their name. I think
That
so.
is
It's just
true.
Space Monkeys. Yeah,
Yeah, because there was a documentary about eagles, and one of the band members said it's eagles, not the Eagles. So
yeah.
that's what I have to ask. Because I thought, because I think on Discogs you're called the Space Monkeys.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll have to write to Discogs, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I think it's one of those things that you argue about so often you forget forget what the decision is. But yeah, there's a load of bands like that, isn't there? The
Yeah,
Happy Mondays. I think it's just Happy
I
Mondays.
think it's just yeah, Happy
Yeah.
Mondays is just Happy Mondays. Yeah, and you've started in 1997, or is that just
The-
when the album came out?
yeah, that's just when the album came out. So we were together as the Space Monkeys from about '95.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Possibly even end of '94, but mostly '95. And we so let me just think age wise, '95, '96. Yeah, it would have had to have been late '94 and '95 we were getting together because we were signed when I was 18.
Oh
So
wow.
that would have been 1995.
Yeah, yeah. And this
Yeah.
is Tony Wilson who signed you for
Yeah,
Factory Records.
yeah.
What was that like? I
It
mean,
was
I mean
well,
Factory Records is,
yeah, it was
the
weird. I
label
mean,
for
we
Manchester.
say that again, sorry, Anne.
It's
What?
the label for Manchester. It's like when you think of Factory Records, immediately you think this is a Manchester band.
Yeah,
This is going to be so good.
it's the label and the guy. I mean, we played a gig at the Hacienda, and obviously, I I'm sure Factory get asked to lots of bands gigs when they're looking to get signed or did obviously.
Yeah.
Um, we had a gig at the Hacienda in the Fifth Man there, which was a brilliant venue to play. It was always really lively, um, really clubby, just a great atmosphere. And we played in there. We couldn't get Tony down to it, so we'd got their A&R guy Sam Gray to come to the Fifth Man. I think we were playing with Northern Uproar. I don't know if you
Oh
remember
right,
Northern
yeah,
Uproar.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, we really felt like we'd blown the roof off. We played a really great gig. It was really high energy. So the next gig we had, Tony agreed to come down to it, and it was at this dive bar in Bury called Monty's,
Okay.
and we were playing with a band called Soft, who later became Elbow. So we were
Oh,
basically
oh,
playing a gig with
yeah,
Elbow.
yeah.
And Wilson came down to see us that time with Sam, and we'd never met him before. He was stood at the back. All our friends were in there. It was a great gig. And then as soon as we came off stage, we just went out into the car park behind this dump of a venue and chatted to him. And he was like, "I'm really interested in you. We want to speak to you." And that was it. It began there. And really quickly, we were meeting them at the factory offices and talking about what we could do together. It was
Yeah.
very exciting. I mean, I was still 17 when that happened. So I was pretty young. It felt like a real. It felt pretty amazing, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. Especially this is Tony Wilson that we're talking about, Mr. Manchester, so like wanting to
Yeah,
sign you. So like,
yeah,
and then you released the album, which has got an amazing title as well, The Daddy of Them All,
yeah,
in 1997. Because you actually made it in America, didn't you?
yeah. We did. We did better there than we did in the UK. There was just something about the British press in that moment. Factory was trying to kind of relaunch and have a bit of a second coming. Some of the
Yeah,
music press, I don't think were keen to support that, and there was always a bit of a weird thing in the UK. We did okay. We still got some presence, and we got some attention. But in the US, um, we we got a deal with Interscope through Factory, and we just really took off there. I think we got on MTV. We got a really good rotation on there. We got a lot
yeah,
of attention because of the Factory story and because of our sound was something quite different over there. So yeah, we did all right.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, looking at the timeline here, it's like 1997. That's during the Britpop. That's the
Yeah,
Britpop era, isn't it? So,
yeah.
but you weren't part of that because
No, I mean,
you had
no,
a different sound.
we were. I think the side of our music that was more electronic and that crossover into samples and that kind of thing
Yeah,
was slightly off to the left of that kind of the mainstream Britpop sound.
yeah,
But we were still part of that movement, and so we kind of caught the edges of it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
But we were still kind of in that movement as far as the Americans were concerned, and so I think that they associated us very much with that.
with that.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and we were connected to that in lots of ways as well. So part of the Factory deal was a connection with London Records. So I remember at the time they were just bringing out Timeless with Goldie. Obviously
oh,
all of that part of music that
yeah,
the drum and bass movement and stuff we were obsessed with, and so there was an association with that. Liam came to our gigs in London. I remember he was at the Borderline when we played there, so there was a closeness and association. But that mainstream stuff with with Pulp and Blur and Oasis,
Yeah,
we
and
were
Oasis.
aside from that, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you mentioned MTV before, because this is something that I found out when I was googling your name. It's is it true that Sugarcane, the video for that, is that true that it cost £100,000 to make?
It cost it cost $250,000.
250. Oh my
Yeah, yeah, I know, and I mean, it was, and you realize after that was kind of our $250,000 as well. At the time, it's just like,
gosh.
whoa, this is amazing. But so it was part of the Interscope Breaking America thing, and they
Yeah,
connected us with the video director David LaChapelle,
yeah, yeah,
who just made the video for the Dandy Warhols. Heroin is so passe.
yeah,
So it was just this kind of really cartoonish, really bright coloured
yeah,
style that was pretty new to MTV, and
yeah.
they hooked us up with him, and it cost that amount of money to do that. So yeah,
It was a
it
pretty wild. It was a wild video, wasn't it? With
was a
all
great video. Yeah, it had the original Rocksteady crew in it. It had Debbie Mazar, the actress, in it. It was bonkers, yeah. And we
yeah,
filmed it. So that was our first trip to America to film that video. That was the first time we'd been over there. So we were flown to New York to make that video. Yeah, it was crazy.
yeah. Well, being a teenager in the 80s, I mean, I do love music videos. And that is
Yeah,
something that actually, I mean, people still do music videos, of course, but in those days, 80s and the 90s, that's the thing. You watch the video and then you see what they're like.
yeah. Well, there was this beautiful time, wasn't there, where
Yeah,
the MTV golden age, where
yeah, yeah,
that's how you found out about music and watching. There was a competitiveness to do better and better videos, and it was just such a brilliant time to sit and watch MTV and just check bands out, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah. That is true. I mean, and also I think with the names of your songs, the titles of your songs as well, they're just so amazing. My super favorite is "Keep on Tripping On" because I just think that God, this is just especially with like "Keep on Tripping On." I always say "Keep on Shining On." When you're playing "Shine On," and then there's one which is "We Are the Super Cool." Who came up with that? Is that Richard?
So yeah, Richard
Oh,
was the
Richard.
writer for that album. So
Yeah,
all of the lyrics and
the lyrics.
the chords for those tracks he was bringing into the practice room. So yeah, that's fresh from Rick's brain. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how does it work with the like producing or making this album? The drum bits, like the one you played, are they already there, or that Richard already like knew how to do the drum or how it
It,
will sound?
it was a
Or
it was a it was a really weird process for me. I think for all of us, we didn't really know how things were going to pan out. So when we were writing those songs, what had happened was we'd been sent into the practice room to create an album.
yeah,
Um, so the songs that we played at that gig when we'd seen Tony and got signed, they were old songs. We needed to write new stuff. So we went into a rehearsal room in Manchester called Sankey's.
oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We were. I
yeah,
mean, we were literally next door to Elbow when they were writing their stuff, and it was a great place to kind of be. But we basically were there full time. We were doing 4 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week in that room. And Rick
yeah,
would bring a song idea, and we'd build on the song idea with the four of us in that room. So that was me, Rick, Tony, and the original bass player Dom
yeah,
Morrison. Um, so we just work up those ideas, and then when it came to go into the studio, we had to choose a producer, and so by the time we'd decided to work with Johnny J, who produced that album,
mm,
we then went into the studio with him, and then the ideas about how to record it and how those sounds were going to be developed, that was very much then on him as a producer with the band to come up with. So you know, everything started to change again in the studio and how those sounds
Yeah,
were going to come together.
yeah.
And combined with sampled beats and that kind of stuff was developed in the studio.
But all the drum, do you call it riffs? Is it like a drum riff, or all the drum sort of
The
like things
beats.
in there? Beats, the drum beats, yeah, they're all yours. You're the one who
On
came
the
up with.
album, no. On the album, so it was a there was this kind of coming together of the live drums with sampled beats. And sometimes, you know, the samples come out on top, and sometimes the beats come out on top, and sometimes they're working together like that.
Oh, right,
Um,
okay, yeah,
but
yeah,
it it was just a process to do that. And so when we first recorded it, I mean, I don't think Johnny knew what he was doing, and we certainly didn't. So we went into Mono Valley in Wales, which was a really popular studio at the time.
yeah,
Mono Valley in Rockfield was kind of
yeah,
where a lot of
yeah,
people went.
yeah, yeah.
We went into Mono Valley and we recorded live drums for all the tracks. We recorded different versions of those live drums. We recorded samples of loops that I'd played, and we started to mess around with samples and stuff like that. It wasn't until we brought all of that back to Manchester, we went into a studio which was called Moonraker at the time, which was on a really crappy industrial estate in Longsight.
Yeah, I've not heard of that one.
No, I mean it was just it was a very small studio,
Yeah.
and we a lot cheaper than Mono Valley, I think. And so that's where things were really messed around with, and we started to cut things up, and that kind of sound of the beats, I guess, was developed in there really.
Yeah, yeah. Who
Yeah.
pays for all the recording? Is it the band or the management or
The
whoever?
what? Sorry. The what? Sorry.
Who pays for the recording? Do
Well,
you do
the
you
band ultimately. I mean, I think that, you know, one of the things that you learn as a band is that whatever you're spending to promote yourselves or record ultimately comes out of the sales of the records, and is paid
Oh,
for before you work out the royalty split. So ultimately, the band is paying for everything.
yeah, yeah,
Um, at the time, it kind of feels like the label is paying for everything, but that's not really how it works at the end. So the more you spend on videos and recording studios and, you know, tour buses,
yeah,
the more it costs out of the royalties. So yeah,
yeah. And then you think that it's all the record people or the labels who are paying for it, but it's actually you. You're the one who are
yeah.
paying for all those. But another thing that I also found is I'm not really. I mean, I've heard of Sliding Doors. I think I remember seeing that film with Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah, I'm sure I've seen that film before. And one of the songs on the soundtrack is a song called Drug Soup.
Yeah.
I haven't got a copy of that Sliding Doors soundtrack, and I tried to look it up on YouTube so I could listen to it and things, but it's not there. Do you know why?
Really?
Yeah, all the other
Hmm.
songs from the Sliding Doors soundtrack are actually on YouTube, apart from Drug Soup,
And that one's
which
not on
I
there.
think, which I
That's
think is
so
a bit
weird.
strange. So, is there something like a legal side to it, or is it because?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I've not looked for it recently. Is it not on Spotify, stuff like that, or is it just
Oh,
YouTube? It's missing from?
YouTube. I don't have Spotify. That's all.
Huh.
I don't really. I don't do Spotify as well. But yeah, it's not on YouTube, which I thought was a bit strange, not
That's so
having
weird. I don't
that
know. I
on
don't
there.
know.
Um,
I'll have to
do
look
you?
into it.
Yeah, do you do that as part of your set?
We have never played that live. Never.
Okay.
No. No. It was a one-off thing that I mean, I think we were on tour in the States and we got a call to go and record that. So we recorded that at Studio One in LA, over like 3 or 4 days. So yeah, it was a bit of a one-off thing that, yeah.
But who wrote it? Is it Richard?
There's another Rick. another Rick composition, and
Okay.
I think he just had it in the bank for that moment, and we were able
Yeah,
to just go and record it. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I hope you can sort of like look it up and see why it's not on YouTube, because it would be
yeah,
it would be
we'll look into that.
nice to find out why. So, your first album was released in 1997, and then you recorded another album, but unfortunately, you weren't able to release it. And then the band split up in 2000, which is not really that long after the first
No,
album.
no,
Can I, can I ask you why you split up? Or?
yeah, gosh. I guess I guess the easiest way of putting it is that the money ran out. I mean, we had so the second album we had actually recorded that almost in its entirety.
Yeah,
We'd done a couple of tracks with Prince Paul. We'd gone in the studio with Tommy D, who's probably best known for Catatonia
yeah,
stuff, and
yeah,
um, and you know, it gets to a point where it needs to be financed in order to go to press and to run a marketing campaign. I think that there was just not enough money from the label, and so it got shelved.
oh,
And so at that
oh, I
point,
see.
um, without then an advance for the band, you know, the band can't continue to be full time, and it kind of
Yeah,
just dissipated from there. It was a shame, and it was kind of um, you know, it had gone quite full on and quite fast for a good few years, and
yeah,
we'd done a lot of touring, a lot of gigging, and then it kind of just faded away at that point, which was a real shame. You know, it felt sad. The band hadn't fallen out. You know, I think we were still in touch and we still wanted it to continue, but it just it couldn't sustain itself. So we had no
yeah.
choice really but to call it. Yeah.
But with all the touring, because I mean, I don't know much about the inside of what the bands are into or what happens when you tour and things like that. So even though you've been touring a lot, so there's still not enough money to sort of like carry on and
Well, I mean, yeah, but touring then was very much a promotional activity. So it was there's been a shift more recently, and now even that shift has gone to the point where artists struggle to make ends meet. But at the time, money was expected from record sales. Touring didn't really pay us. It was seen as a way of promoting the album. So the big tour that we did, we were a support act on with Smash Mouth and
yeah,
Third Eye Blind. That was our main big tour when we were in America and Europe. When we toured on our own, we were playing smaller venues, so it wasn't really an income generator. It didn't make money for us in that way. So
yeah,
it was kind of we were there to sell the album and raise awareness of the band, and we'd do a lot of radio station appearances, which especially in America is a big way of promoting yourselves. Kind
yeah,
of tour the radio stations almost. Um, so we'd been doing that for promotion, and yeah, it wasn't bringing in money. The money really needed to come from record sales
yeah.
and the labels. Yeah.
Well, and then 15 years later, in 2015, you reformed. Is it how can you sort of like? Is it still the same? So, when you split up because of not really generating income that much. But nowadays, like when you reform in 2015, and you're still carrying on with the gigs and stuff, is it pretty much change, or is it the same for the band? Or...
Do you mean in terms of financially?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean we do it because we love it, and
Oh, okay. All right, yeah.
we play gigs where we get a fee, and we we play gigs where we do it and we kind of sort it out ourselves really. So it's not we're not doing it to make money. We're doing it
Yeah,
because we love the music, and we've kind of reconnected, and we enjoy that band life, and we enjoy hanging out with each other, and so we play for those reasons now,
Yeah.
because we want to do it, and we know there's people out there who still want to hear the tunes, and we want
Oh
to play
yes.
them play the tunes.
Yeah. Because I think the first time I saw you was Dermo had a band before called Time for Action,
Yeah,
and the first ever gig that they did was in Boston,
yeah,
and Space Monkeys were there.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that
With
was the
demo,
first.
yeah,
Yeah, with Dermo. Yeah, and I remember because Mike Carty, who's now your bass player, he was the drummer in Time for
right,
Action. So,
yeah, it
so
was.
how, how did he become your bass player then? Because he was the drummer.
Yeah, makes a great drummer. Yeah, he's makes a multi instrumentalist. He plays drums in other bands as well. He's a really good drummer.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think probably in a similar way to me with the band with my friends. Like playing the music is the buzz, and so if you need to sidestep to a different instrument, then
yeah, yeah.
we'll do that. You know, Mick's Mick's brilliant on the bass. He's a really great bass player. He's a great musician, so he can do both. He can switch between the two.
I didn't so he's got another band as well. I didn't realize that he
Yeah,
actually plays in other bands. I thought he was just in Space Monkeys now.
yeah. Me and Mick and our keyboard player Ras, you know,
Yeah,
we all play in a number of different bands because you know you want to play as a musician, and it's fun to learn tunes, and it's fun to play together and play gigs, and it's just
yeah,
you know there's an attraction to it that you can't resist. So if there's a way of doing it, we'll do it.
yeah. I'm gonna say though that the second album that you weren't able to release in after the first one in 1997, you actually managed to do that in 2013. So the second album was out there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah,
So um, I think what happened. So there was a bit of a gap in communication between us and between me and Rick and Co. Rick started to Rick started to pick this stuff up, and he was playing, I think, solo at times. He also formed another band called Giant Star. But he was playing solo. He started to play a few of the Space Monkeys tunes.
yeah.
He he's self-released the second album. He managed to get permission to release most of the songs and got it released because it
Oh,
was, you know, it was owned by the label still, even though they hadn't
oh,
released
right.
it. So
Okay.
he really kind of drove the second stage of the band forward by doing that,
Yeah, yeah,
um, and you know got the tracks out there, and I think realised that he still liked the tracks. It was I I think I'm remembering this rightly, but it was for Shine On, the first Shine On that
yeah.
we reformed.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
He approached Rick and asked him to play a full band set, and so in order to do that, Rick needed to get the band back
The
together.
band, yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, you're all available to do it.
We were
And
all willing. We were all willing. Yeah,
you're all willing to do it. I wasn't there because I started going to Shine On in 2017, and I
right.
remember seeing Space Monkeys there at the time, and I remember having a photo with um, the DJ.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that time as well. So after the second album was released, I also remember that there was a crowdfunding campaign for the third album.
yeah.
And because my friend Sarah, uh, I don't know whether it was like you had some kind of a competition, but she was lucky that she was able to go with you to the studio, which was owned by
Oh,
Lisa Stansfield. And it was like,
yeah.
yeah, as she got to meet, not only was she able to hang out with Space Monkeys, she also got to meet Lisa Stansfield when you were recording it. So that was really
Yeah,
fun.
that was yeah. So Gracieland Studio. Yeah, that's where it was recorded. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, that's just Rick's entrepreneurial spirit getting that together. Yeah, we ran a competition with various prizes for donating to support the album, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the photos and I was like, oh my God, how did you manage to do that? So it's through this competition. But anyway, so I'm really glad that you're back together again now. And are there any other plans of Space Monkeys for more gigs and after this Shine On? Are you going to
Yeah,
be doing Minehead?
hopefully.
Hopefully.
I'm not sure about Minehead this year. I don't know whether we have to be on it either or, Skegness or Minehead. I guess
Oh,
we'll
I
wait and
see.
see. But um, in terms of plans, so there was a couple of new tracks we played on Sunday, and that we've been
Yeah,
messing around with in the practice room. Speak to Your Friends and The Hustler.
yeah, yeah.
So we'll be trying to go in and record those, um,
All right.
and so we can put those out. And yeah, we're trying to talk to one another about dates now, so that we can plan in a few more shows this year. So we'll be looking to play again later in the
Yeah,
year, probably after the summer now.
yeah.
Um, and then if we can get dates in the diary next year as well, that would be great. We just had a bit of a break from gigging with the Space Monkeys because of other band commitments and stuff.
Yeah, and will there be a new Space Monkeys album with the new songs that you're
If
hoping to
if we can
record?
get enough songs together, yeah. I mean, we're trying to go back. We're trying to go back to the old school a little bit, where Rick turns up with an idea at the practice room, and then as a band we build it up, which has been really brilliant fun with
Yeah, yeah,
with the Hustler and Speak to Your Friends. So yeah, we've just got to do that another kind of 10, 11 times, and we'll have an album's worth. Yeah.
yeah. Well, hopefully you'll be playing in Minehead as well, because apparently Ash they said that they're gonna be in Minehead in November, so it is
All right.
possible to do.
So you can do both.
Yeah, you can do both of them. So hopefully, Space Monkeys will do Minehead as well. So now I'm gonna ask you about your other band that I found out from Discogs. 'Cause-
Right.
so RSL, and it says that the band is from Somerset, which is 8 miles north of Manchester.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. It's a tiny, tiny little village, just probably about 2 miles from where I'm sitting now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think I've got a friend who lives in Somerset, but I have to sort of like check that one out because it's like with Stockport. Stockport is 7 miles out, but it's
Yeah.
like to the south, like to the south of Manchester. So RSL, it also says that it's a Latin-based new jazz funk band.
Yes.
What what does it stand for? I mean, what is RSL?
Randomly selected letters.
Oh, I see. Right.
You
Okay.
know, when you're struggling to think of a name.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was sort of thinking it can't be their names. Because if it's Charles Morrison, I mean, it's not. There's nothing there. There's no C. There's no M.
No.
So
No.
it's randomly selected letters.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So can you tell us more about RSL?
Yeah. So RSL was old some friends of mine from school, and when they heard the Space Monkeys were splitting up, so this was in 1999. Things had started to kind of die down a bit with the Space Monkeys.
Yeah.
Um, they asked me if I would be interested in doing some drumming for them, and they had an idea to be a live drum and bass band. That's what they wanted to do.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had a friend who played double bass, and his friend who so my mate Joe Botham, his friend Martin Almond, who was like a keyboard player and programmer, and they had a DJ, and they wanted to put some live drums to the drum and bass. So we actually formed to play. I don't know if you remember, there was a solar eclipse in 1999, and
Oh.
there was all these weird festivals set up around the UK to kind of watch the eclipse and celebrate it. and we managed to get a gig at one of them in Cornwall.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and we formed to do that gig, um, and it was a really weird experience because it was the UK, so it was completely cloudy. So there were all these kind of completely abandoned, washed out eclipse festivals. That was our first. That was our first show. So, but then we went on to. We started to do some recording. We did all these live drum and bass gigs. We ended up playing it in the City, which was the Manchester Music Convention, run by Wilson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and we the whole Latin thing came about because of one loop that we found that we started trying to write to, and it just blossomed into this thing that we all absolutely fell in love with, and we started listening to Eddie Palmieri and loads of like blue note Latin breaks and stuff like that. We just really
Yeah.
got into that style of music, and we ended up forming a band that was probably about 11 piece in the end with live percussion. I was the drummer, so I had to learn how to play Latin beats and bossa stuff, and it was really good fun. And we just had this tiny little studio in Summersea, and we just go and spend our evenings there, and then eventually our days messing around and experimenting with different loops, and we get live horns players in, and we ended up with string sections and all kinds of stuff. So it just grew from there and turned into this kind of Latin experiment. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad that you mentioned In the City because Aiden, my tech support, he was a photographer at the In the City as
Ah,
well.
right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and he knew Tony Wilson. I think Tony Wilson once said that he's like the best photographer in Manchester. But Aiden always says that he says that to everybody. You know, like Tony
Yeah.
Wilson. So, and Aiden also said that he photographed Johnny J.
Oh, did
So
he?
yeah, yeah. So he should get all those photos and so
He should. Yeah. He
yeah,
must have a catalogue of some like key Manchester bods he could make a definitely do it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I had a listen again on YouTube. One of your tunes, which is I think this is the most popular one, which is Wesley Music.
Wesley Music. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. Actually, it's just really, really good. There's like a 7.5 minute long version of it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing because I also found out that a few years ago you got back together and then you were in the festival.
Yeah. So we when Wesley Music came out, which was in let me get my dates right, 2006,
Yeah,
I think, something like that. So it was voted Tune of the Year on Giles Peterson's Worldwide show. It did really well and was just getting played everywhere. It's all over loads of festivals.
yeah,
And when we split up, there's just this kind of group of people who we were hanging around with at the time, who we always had this yearning to maybe play again one day. And so one of them, a guy called Noah, worked on Giles Peterson's current festival, the We Out Here festival,
yeah, yeah,
and he'd mentioned a few times that if we ever got back together, he'd get us on at We Out Here. And so a few years ago, we decided to give it a shot, and we actually got almost the original band together, with a couple of additional players, a guy called Paul
yeah,
Brickles on trumpet, and Yvonne Shelton as a vocalist. And we got together and we played a couple of gigs in Manchester, and we played the festival,
yeah.
and then we stopped again.
You stopped again.
It's
Again,
really hard to manage 11 people.
are you still in touch with them though?
Yeah. I actually did some recording for Joe last week. He's got a new little studio, so he's doing some of his own stuff now. So I did some drumming for him
Yeah.
last week at his studio. Yeah, so we're still in touch. Yeah.
How would you compare this festival with RSL and to like Shine On? It's very different,
It's
isn't it?
different. Yeah, it's a very different vibe. The music is so different. The whole style of playing and the band is just very different setup altogether.
Yeah,
I basically had to relearn how to play the RSL stuff. The Space Monkeys, I think I played it enough. It was all just in there, the muscle memory. You know, when we
yeah,
got back together, it was like one rehearsal, two rehearsals, and it was pretty much all back. RSL was a little bit more challenging. I had to relearn a lot of the drum beats and patterns and stuff that we played back in the day. But yeah, it's
yeah.
very different. Yeah,
Do you when you were saying that you had to learn some Latin beats and stuff? So how did you do that? Is it just through like listening to the music?
yeah,
Or-
yeah. I mean, I think I I would just listen
Yeah,
and practice and it's a lot of it's just kind of getting a bit of muscle memory. So you just go over it enough, and your body starts to get used to what it needs to do.
yeah,
And so yeah, it's just building it up really and practicing it. And it always helps to have played it live because that's when you really, you know, you have to get it right live. So if you've played live gigs enough with something, then it sinks in pretty quickly.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm glad that like I think most of the bands. I don't want to say like old bands because you're like from the 90s and things that when they reformed and things. It's not about the money anymore. It's more to do like because you like each other and you want to play because I mean like for me even though I was already here in 1996 I never really had a chance to sort of like see bands and live music and stuff until 20 I think it was 2014 2015. So it's good that you're still out there, you're still playing, and
Yeah,
and you still get new fans because
yeah,
you get it's not just sort of like nostalgia or anything. You see lots of young people enjoying your music, which is really good. So
yeah. It is nice. Yeah, I mean, my kids were at the Band on the Wall gig you came to. I think
yeah,
you saw you. I think
yeah,
you came over when
yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
So you
Yeah,
know there's people old enough to be bringing the kids now to our gigs, and you know it's nice people get an awareness of the bands from that era because they're still playing and they can get a sense of what they're like to experience live and be
that's true.
introduced to that music. It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So what do they think of their dad? Because your dad was in the color field. So so now, I mean, what did your sons think about you being in the band, being in Space Monkeys?
Well, they're young enough to still think I'm cool at the moment. I guess there'll be a bit of a time when they maybe don't think that, but uh, yeah, I mean, my youngest Harry is at 11. He's very proud, and Barney's a drummer. He started to play drums, and he's
Wow.
really good. So I think they're proud. I think they're happy that I'm in a band or two, and
Yeah, yeah. Has he formed the
yeah,
band yet, or is your no? He's not found
they have
anyone yet.
they have a bit of a band at school. I think they need to get a bit more organised. Really, they're not doing gigs or anything like that, but they play in the practice rooms at school.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
they'll get there. There's plenty of time for all that. They're just yeah,
yeah. Are
they're space
you
cadets, aren't they? So they you know they need someone with a bit of focus to get them to get their
um,
act together, and then they'll be playing.
yeah, that's true. Uh, are you a teacher? Is that what you do? Are you
My
in a
job?
school? Yeah, yeah.
No. I work for an arts organisation. We do
Oh, okay.
we run events, cultural events, and you know very big stuff to very little stuff. So yeah, that's what I do in my day to
And do
day job.
your workmates, do your colleagues know that you're in Space Monkeys, or are they are aware?
Yeah, I mean, I don't shout about it. I sometimes just share that there's a gig on if they fancy buying a ticket. I think a lot of them have been to see me play at some point. Quite a few came to see RSL when we got back together a couple of years
Oh,
ago.
okay. Yeah,
And
yeah.
one of them is a DJ and has 2 copies of Wesley music and couldn't believe I was in RSL when John
Yeah,
came
yeah.
in.
Oh, wow.
And quite a few came to see the Space Monkeys at Gorilla a couple of years ago. So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
people know about it. And I keep my drums in a cupboard at work, so you
Oh,
know,
really? Okay. But do you get recognized though?
no,
Like,
no. I didn't get recognised in 1997. I don't think no. I don't think I
okay.
get recognised now.
Okay. Well, I know we've been, it's nearly an hour now that we've been chatting, but I've still got 4 regular questions that I always ask the drummers when they guest on the show. First one is, do you twirl when you play? 'Cause I don't think I've seen you do that, but
No,
have you ever done that?
I'm not a big showboat fan. I can spin my sticks. I'll do it if I'm fidgeting at rehearsal, but I probably wouldn't do it like there was always this thing when we were um, back in the day where it wasn't cool to smile on photos. It wasn't cool to do a drum solo at a gig. All of that kind of showboaty, slightly rock music stuff was a bit of a no-no.
Oh,
So that kind of stick twirling stuff, I was no, I would never have gone down that road.
who said it? Is it a managerial thing,
No,
or is it?
it's Rick the singer. He was dead against all
Oh,
that kind of stuff. He
okay.
wouldn't tolerate it. So, you know,
Oh, I see. No wonder you're just concentrating when you play. You just
yeah,
yeah.
just do my job.
Okay, just doing your job. All right. What about drumming heroes? Do you have any drumming heroes?
Yeah, I've quite a few. I tend again. I think this has come from being a bit too cool for school in the 90s and denying my past. But when I first got into drumming, I just loved rock music. So it was like the late 80s. There's loads of brilliant drummers about, but they were in hair bands. So, I loved Tommy Aldridge, who was like a session drummer and used to play for Ozzy and people like that.
Yeah, yeah,
I love Dave Grohl. I love his drumming. I used to but then, I also used to really like Stuart Copeland. It's a bit of a
yeah,
no-brainer. John Bonham,
yeah,
everyone loves John
definitely.
Bonham.
Yeah.
All those kind of people. I don't really have any particularly unusual drumming heroes, I don't think. But I love a really good rock drummer.
What about anyone from Manchester?
You know, I think. Oh, I'll tell you who I do like from Manchester: Bruce Mitchell, who used to
Oh
play
yeah,
for Vinnie Riley and
yeah,
Jerusalem.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
is a great drummer, and
He's I think he's in his 80s now, isn't he? He's
he's
like
in his
80.
80s. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think he still plays. But he's a amazing musical drummer. I really like musical drummers, people who, really move with the song and the different elements of the song. Bruce Mitchell is amazing for that. He's fantastic.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I suppose, because you're from Manchester, and I mean, it's like Mike Joyce and Rennie, like,
Well, yeah, Rennie. Yeah, I should name Rennie. Rennie was genuinely a big inspiration when I was making the transition away from rock music and getting more into the Manchester sound and indie music. Rennie, yeah, Rennie just is off the charts, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
Mike
get,
Joyce, not so much. I mean, he's a great Mike's a great drummer, but when you're looking for someone to inspire you, he
yeah,
really just held the back line down, didn't he? Um, with the bass line, and he kept a really solid um,
yeah, yeah.
a solid foundation, which I respect. But when you're a teenager looking for someone to blow your mind, you tend to go for the more flamboyant drummer,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, like Rennie.
Like,
Yeah. No,
sorry, Mike. Yeah,
I'm gonna ask you though. Um, Have you ever met anyone that really got you so like do you get starstruck?
Yeah, I do get starstruck. I wouldn't really approach I wouldn't really approach anyone I was starstruck by anymore. I've done it a couple of times, and I just get quite embarrassed. But um, I I actually stood at a distance. uh, In fact, it was at Band on the Wall, and I was inside Band on the Wall during the day, and not a drummer, but Robert Plant was there, and he was helping a young band out who I think he knew. Maybe he knew one of their parents. I don't know. Maybe he had some other reason for being there in support. And he was
Yeah.
just there in the venue. The venue was empty. It was during the day, and I was like, I've got to go over and say
Yeah.
something, and I just couldn't get near, and I really regret it because apparently he's really lovely and easy to speak to, and I just thought, oh man, why didn't I just go over? Why didn't I? Well, there you go.
And it's not because you're a rock star yourself.
No,
No.
no, no, I can't make that leap. I just can't do it now. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
chat to anyone. In fact, if I don't know who someone is, that's probably better because I'll just chat away to them. But if I have some sense that it's someone famous who I admire, then I would find it difficult.
Yeah. Because I remember being told by, what's his name now? But he's a bass player of the Seahorses.
Yeah,
And apparently he was really starstruck by someone. I can't remember which one now. But
as
John
long as it
Squire.
wasn't John Squire.
No, well, John Squire said to him, "Don't do that because you're a rock star."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like, so I was sort of like
Fair.
thinking, is it something because you're a rock star yourself that you don't want to be seen as being a fan?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. If you're at that level, you've got to be cool. Otherwise, you'll never make any friends, will you? I mean, you're in the same place as those people. You're all doing the same job. You're you're musicians, and yeah, it's better to be able to chat to people, isn't it? So maybe if you just act a bit nonchalant about it, it's easier to get
Yeah.
going.
But Robert Plant, though, you missed that big
I
that opportunity.
miss. That's
What
unlikely.
about you've been drumming since you were very young, like 11 or something. But
Yeah.
so have you ever had any memorable drumming accidents all these years that you've been drumming?
I well, I was chatting about this at Shine On actually to Cy, the lighting guy, because we were reminiscing about touring in America. It wasn't quite a drumming accident, but we were we were in um, we were in Santa Cruz, and we'd done a gig. We had a rest day, and then we were traveling to New Orleans. And I me and the sound guy Trev, who we've been with the same sound guy since we were played at the Hacienda at the Fifth Man. So we were
Yeah.
we were pretty old mates, and we toured everywhere together. And we decided to buy skateboards. I think we were taken over by the whole American thing. We were in California, and
Oh,
we
okay.
both bought a skateboard, and we were skating around the car park outside the tour bus before setting off to New Orleans, and I fell off it, and I landed on my arm,
Oh no.
and I broke my elbow,
Oh
and
dear.
I had like a hairline fracture on my elbow. So anyway, we got back on the bus. I didn't know that I'd broken it at the time. I woke up in the morning, and I had a bruise pretty much the length of my arm, and I
Yeah.
had to. It was we arrived in New Orleans. It was St. Patrick's Day. The whole band went out for St. Patrick's Day, and I had to go to. I went to the hospital in New Orleans,
Oh
and I
no.
waited. I sat there for 7 hours, and I got
Oh
an X-ray. I broke my elbow. They gave me some painkillers, and I had to play the next night. And I've never been in so much pain in my life. It was awful. It was my snare drum hand, and I could barely hit the drum because it hurt so much. But I just had to do it.
dear.
I had to get through it. So I guess
Oh,
that's my biggest drumming accident.
and what happened? What happened to the skateboard?
I've got it. It's in the backyard here.
Oh, you
So
still got So you
Yeah.
you didn't just sort of like break into it's like it's
No,
your fault.
I brought it back
Oh,
to the UK and it's in the backyard.
oh God. Well, maybe. Well, the next question I wanted to ask you is advice to aspiring drummers. Maybe that would be a good advice then, not to buy a
Don't
skateboard.
buy a skateboard.
No, what would be
Don't
your
take
advice?
obvious risks.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, I would I would probably say the best thing you can possibly do is play with a band and push yourself to do that a little bit. Playing with other musicians is better than any drum lesson. Um, Sitting in a room on your own and playing to notation, it will get you somewhere, but there's nothing that beats playing with other musicians and playing in a band. So just do that as much as you possibly can. And gigs, the pressure of doing a gig will bring you on as much as 10 rehearsals.
that's brilliant. Yeah, that's a brilliant advice. Well, that's all my questions for today. Thank you so much. I still feel bad that I didn't get to see you after the
I know, I'm
show.
so sorry. It was,
You
yeah,
know,
I'm so
it's
sorry. It
well,
was a shame.
hopefully there'll be more gigs planned. For Space Monkeys, and I spoke to Richard after I saw them before I went back to the accommodation, and I did say that it's a shame because I wanted to have a photo before we do
Mm.
the Ask the Drummer podcast, and he said, "Oh, does he know that he's doing it?" Yes, it was like, yes, he knows.
I had told them all. They're supposed to be watching now, but I bet they're bloody not.
Well, they can watch it. They can watch it later when I put it up on when I upload it on YouTube. So, but well, thank you so much, Charlie, and or Chas, because we're talking about Space Monkey, so it's Chas Morrison. So, and I really hope that I'll get to see you again and Space Monkeys soon. And Minehead, hopefully, shine on in
Hopefully,
Minehead.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Total
And
pleasure. Thanks for asking me, and thank you.
oh,
Appreciate
that's
it.
brilliant. And thank you for saying yes to us, drummer. So take care always. And I'll see you. I'll see you again soon. All right.
Thank you so much. All the best.
Okay. Bye.
See
Bye.
you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. And Aiden said that it's actually the bands that he's photographed in the city. They were still unknown now. They were unknown then, and they're still unknown now, which is a shame because I think I remember he did. I don't know if he did Coldplay when they were in the city, but I don't know. I've got to ask him later. But yeah, thank you all so much, and thank you to Chas Morrison for saying yes to Ask the Drummer. I really enjoyed that. And for those of you who haven't, you're not aware of Space Monkeys, where have you been? But yeah, for my friends in the Philippines, you need to check them out. Um, Manchester is for us is quite big. It's like Liverpool. That we love a lot of Manchester bands, a lot of Liverpool bands. So you do need to check out Space Monkeys. And in the UK, if you're thinking about if you've seen Shine On, you've got to experience it at least once, in your lifetime because Shine On is absolutely amazing. Well, that's it for me for now, and hope I'll be back next week, and it's going to be on a Sunday. I think it's going to be at 2 o'clock this Sunday. I still have to confirm with the guest. Hopefully, he's still okay to do it. Um, but as always, love music, love life, love drummers. They're absolutely amazing. Thank you so much once again, Chas Morrison. And I always say to people, shine on, like shine on. And so see you all again next week. Bye for now. Bye.